All right, so let's begin with the navigation. So the main entry point of our application is index. We could do this on index, but I'm going to do it in an app, which is pretty much the home of our application, the kickstart. And I'm going to go to app and delete some of the things we don't need. I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to delete the style sheet. I'm going to do it inline. Why not? I'm going to delete the instructions, the props. Same thing then here. I'm gonna do the export default at the bottom because I just like it better. App, and I'm gonna delete the style sheet. Now inside of the view, I'm just gonna add some text. I'm gonna delete this. I don't have a style for this one, and I'm just doing this so we can get something on the screen. Later we're gonna change some of these things. So I'm gonna do home screen, right? And the styles, of course, I am gonna do some inline styling. I'm gonna do, of course, flex of 1. What else? I'm gonna do align items. It's gonna be center, and I'm gonna do justify and then content. Let me do it. Okay, content, right? And this one is gonna be center, and I'm just gonna show you something. I'm gonna do save. I'm gonna reload the application in Mac, black screen, and I'm gonna reload the application in Android, and we get it. And this is, normal. So on Mac, you will need to define the background color. So background and then color, and I'm gonna say white. I'm gonna reload it again, and we get it. Now again, you always need to be sure that everything works on both if you're working for both, right? Okay, so how can we start with React Navigation? Well, first step is gonna be including at the top the modules we're going to be using. So we're going to do import just like this, and we're going to make use of some destructuring, and then I'm going to say from, and it's of course React Navigation. We have it at the bottom. All right, so on this few sections we're going to talk about Stack Navigator. So right from the start, when you create a type of navigation, doesn't matter if it's tabs or drawer, you need to bring 2 dependencies, at least 2 modules. The what type of stack or navigation you're going to create, and the create app container. You're going to see why in a minute. So create app container, and I'm going to bring this stack at the beginning. So it's going to be create stack navigator. That's it. So we need to bring these 2 dependencies. Now, of course, if I reload the application, hopefully everything is going to be okay, unless we get an error message. Okay, everything is good. So it means that we did the installation correctly. Okay, so what do we need to do now? Well, the thing is that when we start this application, we need to tell our application that we want to use a stack navigator. And we cannot do it just on the class. We just need to do it right here. Now, this stack navigator, actually the app container, is going to work like a HOC, like a high order component. We need to wrap whatever application we are creating with the app inside of the app container. So the app container is going to wrap everything, pretty much all our application, and do the logic that it needs to do. So to do this, we first, and everything is on the docs, all right? We need to create a variable called app navigator. You can call this whatever you want, it doesn't matter. The thing is that this app navigator is going to be equal to the create stack navigator. Sorry, I had a mental breakdown. So I'm going to copy this, and we use this. And this stack navigator, of course, will create all the configuration and everything else that we get to with the stack navigator. So by default, and the first option, this is the first argument. Then we're going to get more arguments on the second object, and so we pass objects. So the first object, which is the configuration, is the screens. Of course, if you're using navigation, it's because you want to get many screens. Right now, we just have one. We just have the app. I could rename this to home screen to make a little bit more sense. So I'm going to go and say home screen. We just get one screen. So I'm going to go right here at the inside the first argument, and I'm going to say, okay, so we have one home, and this is the name of this section, the home. And this one needs some arguments, some options. What is the screen we are using? So this is the name of the component. So I'm going to say, okay, I want to use as a home screen, the home screen, which is this component. Then as a second option on the second argument, the second object, we need to tell, okay, what is the initial route? Well, right now we have only one screen. So I'm going to say initial route name, and I'm going to say home. Now notice that I'm adding a string, and this is what it's going to use. It will not accept any other thing, just a string. So of course, the Stack Navigator is going to do the logic for us, and it's going to say, okay, so when we kick start, I'm going to create a home screen, create all the application, and I'm going to start on the screen that calls home. So it's going to go here and say, oh, okay, so this one is the home. This one is the first screen that it's going to kick in. Of course, if I save it and do something now, we get nothing, right? So we need to tell the application that we want to use this Stack Navigator, and we do it through the create app container. So where do we do it? We go at the bottom and we say, okay, I want to create an app container, and the home screen is going to be the kickstart. All right, I'm going to save it. The App Navigator is going to be the kickstart. So now the App Navigator contains all the logic of all the screens. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to reload it, and we get pretty much the same thing, but maybe you noticed it is a little bit different. Let me just load the Android. And okay, so we get pretty much the same thing, but at the top we get kind of a nav var. And by default, when you create a Stack Navigator, you get a nav var, because later you're going to navigate to different sections, to different screens. Now we are talking about screens, and you're going to get the back or maybe the title of that screen, and all the configuration that we're going to be adding in a couple minutes. But right from the start, if you're adding this and you're getting the header, you're kind of good to go. Navigation is in the application, and it's showing the first screen, the only one we get, as a main screen. So this is a route, a screen. All right. Now, of course, in real life, you're not going to do this, right? You're going to get one component to kickstart everything, and then you're going to get other components with, other logic, which they're going to be the screens. So, okay, so let's change this a little bit. I'm going to create a new directory called src, like always, and I'm going to create two different components. One is going to be the home.js, and the other one, it's going to be the users. You could put whatever you want, doesn't matter. All right, now I'm going to go to the app. I'm going to pretty much copy everything, and I'm going to paste it right here. Of course, I need to get rid of some of the things because we will not use navigation right here, at least now. So this one is still going to be home screen. I'm going to delete this from home, and I'm going to say this component is just a home screen, right? Just a regular component. All right. Then I'm going to copy everything, and I'm going to go to users, do pretty much the same thing, but this one is going to be the users screen. So users screen. All right. And then of course I need to change the export default and say something else right here. So this one is going to be, I am the users screen, whatever. All right. So now of course we reload the application and nothing happens. We get pretty much the same thing because we are not including the components. But now we have two screens, the home and the users. So what we need to do is to tell the application to not use the navigator, to not use this one anymore and use something else. We need to do a different type of configuration. So I'm going to delete this. And we know that the main file that is going to kick in, because the index says so, is the app.js. So okay, so the app.js is going to enter here. We don't need React Native logic. We just need maybe React. I'm going to leave it anyways. And the only thing we need to pass is the React navigation. So when this file kicks in, it's going to create a navigator and create an app container, and everything that it's inside here will be rendered as a screen. All right. So we have two components, right? We have the import, going to do import, and then we get the home screen just like this. And where are we going to get it? We get it from source / and we get home. Then we have a different one. It's the import and users screen, whatever, from .source / and then user. So now we have two different screens, right? Two different logics. And I'm going to call it maybe user screen. It's a little bit better. So, okay, I'm going to go here and I'm going to make the change. I don't like the users, the two S's, whatever. I'm going to delete it and just go back. Okay, so now we have two different screens. We need to tell the app Navigator that now we don't have a home, just a home. We get a home and a users. All right, so now we say, okay, so when we create a stack, home is going to be the first screen that kicks in. This one, it's the most important one for us. And which screen are we going to use? Well, the home screen. Since we are importing this at the top, it will understand that we need to render this component when we go to home, and of course it's going to go and render it. If we have more screens, we just do comma, we go at the bottom, and we say, okay, I want to create a one that says users. This is the user screen, and the name is completely up to you. Of course, you should do something that makes sense. So then we define the screen, and this one is going to use the users screen component. All right. Now, the initial route works depending on what you say. So if you don't do initial route, by default, it's going to go to the first element on the list. So your application will start and it will render the first one. If you're defining the initial route, you could say users, and the initial start is going to be users, and everything else is going to be a children of users. So don't worry, we're going to do it right now. I'm going to see it in action. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to reload the application, and okay, we still get the home screen. Now I'm going to go to users and do the same thing. Users, I'm going to reload the application, and notice that now the main application, the main component is the user's screen. All right, this is cool, a little bit boring, but this is how we can do the configuration. Now, when you create a route, right? When you define the route, the configurations and everything else, you are going to get a lot of more options right here. So in this case, we are just using one. So if you're just using the name of the component that you want to render inside this screen, you just can go ahead and say something like this. I'm going to just delete it, and then I'm going to just go back because we will use some options in a couple minutes. So we say, okay, home, but for home, and users for users, and that still works. I'm going to go back because we will add some options in a couple minutes. So, okay, so let me tell you what's going to happen. I'm going to reload the application, and what I want to do, I want to click on a button that takes me to the user's screen, which is a child of home. All right. Okay, so let's do that right now. Okay, so I need to add a button from home that takes me to user. So of course I cannot really do it right here. I need to do it on home. I need to add a button that triggers some kind of action that goes to users. So by default, when we use this, and of course this is part of a stack navigator, we get all the props related to navigation, React navigation inside of the component. So I'm going to go here. I'm just going to show you. And again, this is one of the things you learn by example. So I'm going to go to home and I'm going to say, okay, I want to bring a button. And this is just, a React component, not related to navigation. And of course, we need to import it at the top because if not, it's going to fail. So the button, remember that needs a title. And this one is going to be go, to users. All right. So, okay, so I'm going to go right here and say, whenever we do onPress, I want to trigger some action. What do we want to do? Well, we need to run a function. So what does this function is going to do? Remember I told you that whenever we include this component inside a stack navigator, we get injected a lot of properties from React navigation. So if they get injected, we have access inside this.props.navigation, just like this, navigation. And then of course we get access to some methods and properties. So what we want to do right here is to go to navigate. So navigate, it will create kind of a link right here. So when we do navigate, we need to tell the navigate where we want to go. So in this case, I want to go to users. So I'm going to say users. Now, of course, you cannot put whatever you want right here. You need to put the name that you're using right here. Since we created all the components with the create stack navigator, when you call navigation, navigate, and you put that name, navigation, of course, will know that you have a screen called users. If it fails, it's because you put a wrong name. So I'm going to save it and just test it. I'm going to go to users, and there we go. It works. Really simple stuff. Well, let me go back. And maybe you noticed the go back. Okay, so I'm going to go to users again. we get this, sliding effect, and this is the effect we get by default. And at the top, since the user's screen is a child of home, remember we said that the initial route is home, you're gonna get by default of course the header, and you get a back option. And if we go back, we go back. All right, really, really cool stuff. Let's do pretty much the same, but the opposite way before we go to the next section. I'm gonna go to users, I'm gonna do button, and I'm gonna add a button. So I'm gonna pretty much copy this. So copy, I'm gonna paste it. Okay, so this one is gonna be go to home, right? The opposite of the other one. So let me make it right, go to home. Okay, so on this one, we will do pretty much the same thing. That props, that navigation, navigate, but this time it's gonna be home. I'm gonna go backwards. So I'm gonna reload it, go to users, go to home. Real cool. So I'm gonna go to the Android just to make sure everything works, but I know that works. I'm gonna go to users, and we get pretty much the same behavior, but with the native kind of a layout, because that's what it is. We are still doing native. If I go to home, we go back home. All right, man. So you get a lot of properties with Navigate. We're gonna check them later. But for example, if you want to go back and you don't know, let's say that you are on the child component. Let's say that you are maybe, I don't know, at the user screen, right? We are on the user screen. And instead of just going to a specific route, you want to go back, right? You are on the home, you go to users, and you're gonna go back to whatever route. All right, so you could pretty much do the same thing, and you have a go back kind of a method. So instead of home, because we don't know the name of where we're going to go back, we say go back. So of course, all of this is on the documentation. I'm not just making this up. I'm gonna go to users, and let me change. All right, just to make sense, go back, and again, we go back. All right, okay, really, really cool. So let's go to the next one, and we're gonna talk about all the parameters we can use with the navigate property. So let's go to the next one and check it out.